Hello there. You're listening to the Box Office Show. I'm Ryan Hill.
And I'm Dylan Johnson. Today we're going to be talking about the box office numbers from last weekend and our box office predictions for this upcoming weekend.
We'll also be discussing a couple of films that made for great family outings to the theaters this Christmas. We're talking about Babygirl and Nosferatu. Start out with some news. We finally know what Christopher Nolan's next film is going to be. We've been getting casting announcements for weeks now, but still, it was completely under wraps what his new story was going to focus on. And it has been unveiled, confirmed officially by Universal. It is going to be an adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey. Dylan, your thoughts on this?
We'll see. Obviously, Christopher Nolan has done some period pieces. He did Oppenheimer most recently, which took place in the 40s, and he did The Prestige, which took place in the 1800s. So he can do it, of course. I just am very much used to his more contemporary films and also Interstellar, which takes place in the not so distant future. I don't know what a Christopher Nolan movie is going to look like throwing it back that fucking far.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's Christopher Nolan. He's incredible. He's a great director. I'm a fan of all of his movies. I think I will. Oh, I guess also Dunkirk. I forgot to mention Dunkirk is also a period piece. But I guess we will see how it goes. I'm trying to remain optimistic. It's just not my favorite idea, I suppose. I was hoping for an original, I guess. And, because Tenet was a little disappointing as an original. Dunkirk was his last original movie that I was taken by. But even that was based on real events.
Mm-hmm.
The last truly original thing was Interstellar, since Dunkirk was based on real events.
Well, Tenet
was disappointing, though, is what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Interstellar was the last original piece that thrilled me. But Tenet was a disappointment. And then there was Oppenheimer, which was based on a book, based on real events, and Dunkirk, which was based on real events. And now The Odyssey, which is based on a book again. We'll see. I am keeping my hopes up as much as I can. I don't know. Not taken by it.
That's crazy because I am beyond hyped. I'm so ready for it.
All right.
Sword and Sandals Epic by Christopher Nolan?
All right.
Come on. Okay. That's just amazing. That's incredible.
We'll
so two other things really helped make this lock into place for me. First, Nolan, his favorite film of 2024. Do you know what it is?
Is it Gladiator 2?
It is Gladiator 2.
That's a crazy choice.
He wrote a piece on it. It was Variety or Deadline or something like that. They had a bunch of directors saying what their favorite films of the year were, and he had chosen Gladiator 2. And I definitely don't agree with that. But
what was his defense? What was his reasoning?
I think he was just mainly talking about how it's a very immersive, transportive experience into that time, and Ridley Scott was able to essentially do what the gladiators were all about back then, of just the spectacle, us wanting to see the absurd things like a shark in a flooded Coliseum.
Sure.
Ridley Scott knew that that's also what we want. We're going to the theater in order to capture a similar experience to that. Obviously, since it's not real people and real stakes, it's something different, but we still have that innate desire to see just some messed up stuff for our entertainment. Mm-hmm. And so he was speaking to that. And then also just again, the scale of it, how incredible it is to create some of those action sequences, make it as coherent and compelling as it is. Again, I do think a lot of the action sequences there were really strong.
Yeah, they were. Absolutely.
Scott, again, we've gone in depth extensively on his films and how we feel about them lately. But one thing he's not lost is the ability to create some really fine action set pieces.
This is true. Yeah. He's a man of spectacle. So I suppose I could see that argument, yeah.
Yeah, Nolan respected, I think, those elements there. So it makes sense, the period piece stuff, and then certainly that idea of our fascination with gladiatorial things. I think that really connects. And then the other thing, I watched The Return. Have you seen trailers for that or know what that is? Ralph Fiennes?
Ralph Fiennes, yeah.
Yeah, it's about the return, the part of the Odyssey where Odysseus returns home to Ithaca and then needs to, I guess, take away all those suitors that were for 10 years trying to have Penelope's hand in marriage. So it focused solely on that part of the story. And I forget what movie it was in front of, but I saw a trailer and I was like, that looks kind of good. So I'm
Hmm.
going to go see that. It was not very good. I was kind of disappointed by it. Ray Fiennes is incredible.
Of
Also,
course.
this man's like 60 years old or something like that. Dude, he was jacked.
He was
Like he
shredded.
was completely shredded. It was crazy. And they really made me want to see like a deleted scene from the Conclave where he just takes off his cardinal robes and it's just shredded and he's like, vote for me.
He gets to the bottom of it by throwing hands at the other Cardinals,
He just
John Wick
takes it up.
style.
He's shredded, just starts punching John Lithgow. It's like, you have failed. You have committed sins. Um, so yeah. So anyway, that was the best part of the film, which is Ray Fiennes. Again, he was a great actor in it, but then also just that moment at the end where he just is tearing things up with the famous bow and everything.
Mhm.
Um, but then I started looking. I was like, I kind of wanted more. I wanted like this big, epic, again, just like adaptation of this book that is known worldwide, and it's like such a foundational piece for so much of like Western literature. Um,
Mhm.
and there was I forget the name of it, but there was a mini series that was like tail end of the '90s, turn of the century type thing, where again it was just like a made for TV miniseries, which was
Mhm.
really well received and everything. But I was like, why hasn't there been such a big, grand scale adaptation of the Odyssey? And then, lo and behold, a few days later, we get this news that Nolan is going to be doing it, and I'm like, that's perfect. Like, if there were anyone that would be able to do it and do it justice on the big screen, it's definitely him. So I am very much excited for it. And with the cast too, people were starting to get like annoyed, I guess, with Zendaya, Tom Holland, like these people getting cast, Robert Pattinson.
Mhm.
I'm like, no,
Robert Pattinson's great
they're
and everything.
awesome.
How
Like,
could you be mad at
put them
Robert
in.
Pattinson being cast?
Yeah. So I am very much looking forward to the Odyssey coming, I believe, what 2026, I think is
I
what it should
believe
be. Or they're filming this
the year of
upcoming
Tom
year.
Holland.
Exactly. Yeah, the summer of Tom Holland. That'll be wild because he's going to go on a crazy press tour.
Hmm.
But speaking of Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2 has been delayed to October 2027, meaning it will
Devastating.
be a 5-year gap since The Batman came out.
And 3 years since the Penguin.
Exactly. Yeah.
So sad.
So, yeah, I don't know what's going on. I guess they're still working on the script and everything, but this is pretty worrying because now it'll be. We'll talk a little later in the segment about Superman, but that will be 2 years gap between Superman and the Batman Part Two. Supergirl potentially could also come out before that time. So it's like DCU, James Gunn's new DC universe is going to be, you know, fully fledged by that point, or at least they'll be getting it off the ground. I guess if Superman tanks, then that'll just kill it right away. But assuming it does well, they'll start, firing up all those other projects and getting it going. And then you have the DCU version of Batman that they want to get off the ground. And if the Batman Part 2 gets delayed again, like if it doesn't even make the October 2027 date, because again, they still haven't confirmed that the script is done. So it could get delayed again. That's starting to cause problems, I feel like. And then you're going to have potentially a Batman film with Robert Pattinson, who was supposed to be like the young Batman, and now he's getting older and older. He's about to be like 40. So again, like this whole trilogy that was supposed to be the early days of Batman is very much not gonna conform to that original idea. And now it just might start threatening the DCU. So I
Hmm.
don't know. I'm a bit concerned about it. I would still love to see like the continuation of it, but I'm just worrying that they're just gonna be shooting themselves in the foot ultimately. So unless
Yeah.
they somehow work in Robert Pattinson into um, the DCU, then I'm worried that this might get canceled like outright. Like
Yeah.
they may just say, okay, we got to pull the plug. Like you had a few years, but now we got to focus on the DCU and find our new Batman and like put all our cards into that. We can't just have like another Batman just floating around and not knowing whether or not it can actually be completed. So, what are your thoughts on that? How would you?
I
What
don't
would be
care.
the ideal situation? You just don't care at
I
all.
don't
You're just
care.
unplugged entirely. You didn't
Comes
finish
out, doesn't
watching The
come
Penguin,
out.
did you?
No, I did not.
I
I
could
got
tell.
4 episodes in. Did you finish it?
No, I haven't started it
Okay.
yet, but I just see it on the continued watching. It was like episode 4, and I was like, oh,
Yep, that's as
Dylan
far as I
just
got.
checked out.
Yeah, I got busy doing other things, I guess. Watching a lot of movies recently, which has been good. Watching a lot of older movies, watching a lot of foreign movies, trying to fill in the gaps of my movie knowledge, as well as trying to watch a lot of like new releases this year, more so than last year. I'm
Mm.
already, I think, 6 or 7 movies ahead of what I had watched last year, and I'm in this last month and January. I've been trying to watch even more to really get ahead on it because I want to be the kind of guy who has like seen a lot of the movies of the year in the year that's coming out. The way I don't have a backlog because this year I had a backlog of movies from last year that I never got
Hmm.
around to that I was slowly catching up on. Like I watched Fallen Leaves this year. I watched. I still haven't finished the Vim Vendors movie, uh, where the Japanese man.
Mm.
Oh my god, dude! Perfect Days.
There you go. Yep.
Still haven't finished Perfect Days, which I would like to. I should. It's free right now. It's on Hulu, I think.
So you started it, but you didn't finish it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What happened was is I started watching it on the flight back from California, and I don't do this. I don't watch movies on flights that I've never seen before. But that was a movie that I couldn't find anywhere else. It didn't
Oh,
exist
but it was on
anywhere.
the
It was
plane. Oh, that's
not
crazy.
streamable anywhere. And I was like, oh my god, it's on the plane. This is the only time I've ever seen it available to watch anywhere. I have to use this opportunity. And so I started it, but then we got into really, really bad turbulence to the point where I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Like
Oh
this is
no.
horrible. The plane is like dropping tens of feet at a time constantly. I'm gonna put on something a little more calming because there's like people like screaming every time it drops, and I'm like,
Jesus.
I'm not gonna die watching Perfect Days. I can't like relax during this movie. I'm gonna put on something funny, and I put on like a shitty comedy or something to like relax. And then I never went back to Perfect Days because I was like, the turbulence could start up again. This is terrible.
Wow.
And then I never went back and finished. I need to start over honestly because I only got like
Yeah, you'll have to start
30 minutes
over.
in max, probably less. I
Wow.
barely started it if anything, and I would rather watch it on a TV than a fucking back of a seat.
Yeah. Let's hope wherever you watch it, an earthquake doesn't strike. God
God, that'd be
forbid.
terrible. Tsunami.
Um, all right. And then moving on, I guess, from the Batman, which you, one way or another, something will happen to it, Dylan will not care either way.
Dylan
But
will not care. I mean, I'll see it if it comes out. I like the first Batman. I do not give a shit about the DCU one way or
dang,
another.
crazy. All right. Sonic 4 has been greenlit. It will also be hitting theaters in 2027 alongside a Bluey movie.
Hell
Will
yeah,
also be hitting theaters that
those
year.
are both
So,
awesome.
so you're
I care
excited for
so much
those.
more about. I haven't seen a single Sonic movie, and I'm still happier that Sonic 4 has been greenlit than the Batman 2 because I'm a big fan of the Sonic video game franchise.
That's your favorite superhero, bro. Batman. How are
You're
you
right.
not hyped up? That's crazy.
I don't fucking care about superhero movies, bro. I don't find them that entertaining anymore. I really just don't. But
But
Sonic, dude,
Bluey,
I've heard good things. Have you seen Sonic 3 yet?
not yet.
Have you seen the clip of Jim Carrey dancing?
No, not yet.
I won't say anything more.
Please don't. I can't wait to experience that in theaters. But
Have you seen the first 2 Sonic movies?
I did, yeah. You
Dude,
know
I gotta
this.
catch up. I haven't seen any of them.
Well, now you can do the whole trilogy and then get
I
ready for the
should.
next saga.
I feel like I would
Um,
like it. But Bluey, bro, I love Bluey.
mhm.
Bluey's sick. I would go to the theaters to watch a Bluey movie.
That's hilarious. But all right, so there you go. Big things coming 2027. Talking about next year, a little closer. Superman is going to be hitting in the summer of 2025. James Gunn's first film in the DCU, seeing whether or not they can kick off another DC centered cinematic universe. You watched the trailer against your will in a theater
Yep.
because they were playing it in front of the movie. So, what did you think
It
as your first
looks
impression?
terrible.
Dang, that's crazy. Now you're talking about the visuals, just like the visual aesthetic.
Yes.
Yes, I
Yes.
agree, kind of. Yeah, it's I was pretty shocked looking at that because I thought they would have done more, especially at least in the first trailer, to
Because
make sure that
The
people.
Guardians movies and the Suicide Squad movie that James Gunn made, all of those looked better than
Mhm.
the Superman trailer. And to be fair, this is just a trailer. You can't judge a movie based on the cover of the trailer. But from the footage I have seen, it looks like a step down from the other movies he's made, which is crazy because he is in charge of the entire like cinematic project, not just director. He's in charge of all of the DCU. and
Hmm.
this is like the flagship project to launch it. You
Yeah.
think that they would put everything they have behind it, and it just
Yeah.
looks a
Spare
lot
no
worse than it should.
expense.
Yeah, Man of Steel looks significantly better.
Yes. So that is a concern. The other big concern I had was it was very overstuffed with characters that were
Oh
not
my god, dude!
Superman.
Yeah,
And so I was like, I feel like, and again, he wants to approach it where he's already a superhero that is in a world of superheroes, but having it be so focused on these other people, like, I don't know that the casual viewer would be able to see this and then not think it's just a continuation of the DCEU. And it's like, oh, here's these other people, and oh, I kind of remember the Green Lantern, I kind of remember this other thing. Like, I don't think it serves as a big reset. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I agree. I don't know. It's just yeah, I was not grabbed in the way that I think they were trying to grab me. I was not hyped at all for the characters. I was not hyped at all for the story, and I'm just not interested or invested, I suppose. And I think if the movie comes out and it doesn't have good reviews, I just don't think I'll see it. I think I'll just skip it completely.
That's crazy. You will not
If
be,
it
because
has good
we'll
reviews, I
definitely
think I
review
should.
it for the show. So
Fuck. If you
you will
make
be
me
watching.
review it, I'll go see it. If you
I will
make me
make
do
you.
it, fine.
I will. Again, our superhero related things has gone down dramatically from our like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
2021 or whatever. We
It was
did every
2022. It was
single
terrible.
movie, and then since then we've only done, like, this past year we only did Deadpool and Wolverine.
This is
So
true.
we had one superhero film this year. We'll do. uh
Superman next year, and I think that's it. Avengers comes out next year,
no, Avengers doesn't. There's Thunderbolts, which we will not be watching. Captain America, we'll see, because
possibly.
we'll see. uh
Thunderbolts is crazy.
that could be fun to talk about. Yeah, Thunderbolts will not. I will not be watching. We
I'm
will
not
not be
gonna watch
doing
that
a
shit.
show on it. But yeah.
I might,
So
I might see, I might be willing to review Captain America if people say it's okay.
yeah,
Just okay. It just needs to be okay.
yeah. I think it'd be
That's
a
all it
good,
needs.
you
Because I
know,
saw Captain America and the Winter Soldier, all it needs to be is, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which they ended with Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which is the same title as Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
exactly. Yeah.
So fucking
So
dumb.
silly, so
So
stupid.
fucking stupid.
But because we did that episode, I think it'd be a nice way to tie it together if we watch this next one. And also
Could have called it
Harrison
Captain
Ford.
America and the White Wolf. Could have fucking
Yeah,
idiots.
I have no idea why they didn't do it. But talking about the DCU, Jason Momoa from DCEU to DCU, he's the one constant so far. He will be not reprising Aquaman. He will be playing Lobo in Supergirl.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, he definitely like fit the bill there.
Yeah,
So it makes sense. Good for him, and he'll be able to, you know, I mean, they might paint his skin and everything, so he'll look different enough. But it's funny because the way he played Aquaman is going to be like very reminiscent. I feel like of the Lobo approach.
absolutely. Yeah.
Just be more.
Just because they don't have to change him very much from how he currently looks to be
Yeah,
Lobo. He just like looks a lot like Lobo from the comics already.
exactly.
So
So
we'll see.
it makes sense. But good for him.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the box office breakdown for the 27th of December to the 29th, the final weekend in 2024. And we weren't able to report on the previous weekend, but we will discuss the two movies that went head to head. And once again, they had a round two, and it was very close this time around. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 versus Mufasa. Taking the win yet again was Sonic 3 with 37 million. Last weekend, it had a debut of 60 million. And so far worldwide total, it has grossed 210 million. Now, Mufasa, this weekend, it grossed 36.8 million. So just shy of taking the crown from Sonic. But last weekend, it was a blowout. Mufasa only made 35.4 million.
So it went up.
So yeah, Mufasa went up. It made like
Interesting.
almost 4% more this weekend than last weekend.
I can't say that I've almost never seen that happen.
It happens.
Going
It's
up.
because Christmas. It's
It's
because of
because
the whole
Christmas,
like
absolutely.
so
But
that
I just
the
so
one
interesting.
time that does happen is like Christmas. So I think last
Holidays, yeah.
year there's probably a similar case, something like that. But yeah, most films do actually, like Wicked and Moana 2. They also increased from last weekend.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so far worldwide, like Mufasa is winning the race. It will win the race. It's gained 320 million so far, but yeah, there's bigger problems that Mufasa has to face than Sonic, and that would be your entire roster for the box office draft.
Unfortunately, Ryan, are you willing to call it now, or do you want to wait?
Uh, as you know, I mean, I'm never one to give up early, so we are not calling a thing at the
We'll
moment,
wait.
but
We'll wait.
I
It's
will
looking
say
bad.
this is not this is not looking like the huge turnaround that we needed. So you
I'm the
might have
champ.
another victory under your belt.
I'm the fucking champ, bruh.
Disgusting, truly, truly disgusting.
That is so fucking sick, dude. I needed a win. I needed the win. After Mufasa was Nosferatu with 21.6 million in the Christmas 5-day weekend, it made 40 million. So quite a lot of people went and saw it on Christmas Day and the day after, I suppose.
Indeed. Wicked with 19.7 million. It had the sing along version hitting for the Christmas holiday, and domestically, it has now hit around 425 million.
Which is
So a
crazy.
huge
Yeah.
smash stateside. Again, the international numbers, people do not care that much about Wicked,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
here in the States, people are going crazy for it.
Absolutely. And Moana 2 made 18.9 million, bringing its approximate domestic total to 400 million, also smash and much bigger internationally than Wicked is.
Yeah, it's almost at 900 million worldwide. So it'll be hitting the $1 billion mark fairly soon. And
Absolutely.
after Moana 2, we have A Complete Unknown also debuting this weekend, 11 million, and in the Christmas stretch, it made 23 million. So all these films did really well for the Christmas
Absolutely.
holiday.
After these was Baby Girl with 4.3 million,
Gladiator 2, 4 million,
Homestead 3 million.
and The Fire Inside, 1.9 million.
And for our box office predictions for January 3rd to the January 5th following the New Year's, it is going to be another round of Sonic versus Mufasa, round 3. Ryan, do you think Sonic will hold on to the top spot, or do you think families are wanting to see Mufasa more and will it claim victory in its third weekend over the first two?
Indeed. I think Mufasa will take the win this time around. It just
Interesting.
needs to have, because right now they're about level. And Sonic did drop from its first weekends while
Yeah,
Mufasa increased. So it's just now it's going to depend on like the size of the decrease. I just think Mufasa will probably hold on better than Sonic, which is probably more fan driven in the earlier weeks compared to now. I think some people will still like go around and see it. Honestly, I actually need to see both these films, so we'll see which one I end up helping.
you haven't seen Mufasa yet,
No, not yet.
dude.
I've been busy, man.
You just gave up, didn't you? Completely gave up on your entire box office draft.
Not yet. I'm gonna see it, and
You
it'll
don't
still
even
count for the
care,
draft.
man. You don't even
But
care. You should have seen
yeah,
it 4 times, dude. You should just be
yeah,
buying tickets and not
I don't think
seeing
that
it.
would at this point. I don't think that'll help clear the deficit that I have. But
You gotta start cold calling people and asking them to go see Mufasa.
we'll see. Again, it increased this weekend. What if it increases next weekend? Insane. Not gonna
Goes up to
happen. But I think
200 million domestically.
I think it will have a better drop than Sonic. So I think it'll take the win. What about you?
I would agree. I think Sonic was a lot more front loaded than Mufasa was. I think Mufasa has longer legs because it is a more notable property. I think in terms of like family viewing, I think Sonic has a massive following for the fans that it has, but it's more of a following of like young adults like us as opposed to little kids. And I think little kids are more inclined to go see Mufasa. It's a musical. It's animated ish. It's based on the Lion King.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I think families following the new year who are still like in their hometowns, still on vacation with families, if they're going to take their kids to the movies, I think they're going to go see Mufasa over Sonic 3. So I think the drop will be less. And if that happens, since they're around the same, amount currently, I think Mufasa will beat it out only slightly.
All right. So we will see what happens there for round 3. Whether Mufasa will be able to take it. But yeah, nothing else. Again, we're entering the January dead zone for the year. So there'll be a
Yep.
lot of holdovers just fighting it out for those top spots.
Somebody say Holdovers, my favorite movie of last year.
There
Heyo.
you go.
I
You're
watched that
watching
on
it
Christmas
for
Eve.
Christmas
Yeah.
Eve. Yeah.
Made me cry again.
Dang. All right. Let's now talk about the Christmas special for this year. Two family friendly films, Baby Girl and Nosferatu.
It's a very good bit.
So let's start off with Baby Girl, which we both saw. And then later you can talk to us about Nosferatu. Um, but first of all, I just want to get your theater experience with Baby Girl.
I went earlier today at like 1 in the afternoon, and so my theater was almost completely empty. And I was just kind of like watching it with. I think there were just a couple of couples in there or something, and I had a good time. I was given some good reactions there. I was trying not to be too loud, but there was like a lot of like whoa moments, like oh my god,
And,
just like a lot of not as crazy as Saltburn nearly at all, but
mhm.
definitely moments where I was like, if had I been watching that at home out loud, I would have been saying I would have been like talking out loud to myself. Had I not been in a theater with people, I would have been making some comments for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Because last night when I went to go see it, people in the theater were absolutely just vocalizing all their
Ah,
thoughts or
that
having
would have
just
made
like
it so much more fun.
loud reactions. So there were a lot of moments, which we'll get to, but just like very funny moments that were sprinkled in there that were causing hoots and hollers in
I
the,
wish
the
that had
theater.
happened. That
And
would have been
so
way more fun.
that can be pretty fun for some of it, but then there's always that moment where it's like some people are just not reading the tone of the film anymore. And when it changes from like the clearly comedic moments to something where it's meant to be more uh, just like emotional or serious, and then people are still taking it as a joke and laughing, and it's like, okay, now you're sort of losing the vibe there.
Hmm.
And then also when people are just having conversations, like trying to figure out, like, oh my god, what is she doing? What's going on here? It's like,
The
okay,
conversations can get annoying.
we're
Yeah,
seeing everything that's happening. They will answer in a second. Like, you do not need to start having conversations about it.
yeah.
Um, so it's like a double edged sword. It is fun on one hand. It can be nice to have that like communal experience and everyone's involved in it. But then, yeah, some people can sort of just take it too far or not know when to just like let it rest. So yeah, but overall, your impressions on this film, starring Nicole Kidman, Harris Dickinson, Antonio Banderas, from the director and writer of Bodies, 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 Helena Ryan.
I liked it. I had a good time. I thought it was definitely unique. It was definitely a little heavy-handed in what it was trying to say. Very much unsubtle, in a similar way that the substance is not very subtle with the message it's trying to get across.
Hmm.
I think it definitely conveys what it's trying to say very, very well. My one qualm is that as much as I enjoyed it, I think this is a movie that is ripe for misinterpretation. I feel like if the wrong person watched it, they would come away with the wrong message. In the same way that I think people who watch American Psycho and like idolize uh, Patrick Bateman, I
Uh-huh.
think do the same thing. I think people who watch this and like uh, I don't want to say men specifically, but I suppose like certain like toxic masculine characters that are out there. I think if they were to watch this movie, they would come away either thinking that like all women behave like this, which is not true, or thinking that like it's bad that women behave like this, which is also not true, or thinking that like women in power are just as bad as men in power, which is it's just like none of these things are what the movie's trying to say. I think it's supposed to be saying that like women are people too. They have sexual fantasies just like men do, and there's nothing shameful in that. But there is shame in some actions that you do. You're still a human being, and you can still make mistakes. But
Mhm.
because like Nicole Kidman is not, she's a very well-rounded character. I think very well written, very well performed. Nicole Kidman is fantastic in this movie. I think there's a chance she gets an Oscar nomination, and I think if she did, I think she would have earned that nomination. I think she's absolutely incredible in it.
I 100% agree because there was
Right?
that the Golden Globe nomination came in there, but so I was coming into this like, okay, let's see what we got going on. She was fantastic, like by
She's
far
so
the
good.
best part of this film.
Yeah,
So good, so good. So yeah, I would
incredible.
100% support. I am advocating. I hope she gets an Oscar nomination. She
Yeah,
100% deserves it.
she's absolutely fantastic. And I think what she does here by making this character seem so well rounded and so complicated and so complex goes along. I mean, it's a character study, 100%. This is about exploring her character and how she's feeling and why she feels that way. And Harris Dickinson, his character, you're doing a lot of that work too, trying to get through it with him, but not nearly. It's mostly her character, of course. It's
Mhm.
completely from her perspective. He's just there to facilitate that story for her, but he does have like a lot of character moments for himself as well, which is really wonderful, and Antonio Banderas as well, which is really wonderful. But it's the main focus is on Nicole Kidman, which I love, and I love watching her kind of go through the emotions of like, why am I feeling this way? Should I feel ashamed about this? Am I doing the right thing? Am I moral? Am I amoral? Is it wrong because I'm cheating? Is it wrong because I am older? Is it wrong because I'm in a position of power? or is it okay because he's in the in the bedroom, he is technically the one in the position of power, in the fantasies that they're enacting out. There's like a lot of complexities in what they're trying to talk about. And I like
Hmm.
watching her try to work through it as she's going through it herself, because they have multiple conversations between the two of them where they both admit we have really no idea what we're doing. We're just kind of doing it because we like it, and they're trying to understand it better. And then she tries to. I love the scene where she tries to explain it to Antonio Banderas when he doesn't quite understand what she's trying to say before he realizes
Hmm.
that she's talking about having an affair. And she's like having a tough time putting words to it and trying to explain what it is. And really, what it
Yeah.
is that she has these sexual fantasies and he does not satisfy her. And she found that satisfaction somewhere else. And there's no shame in having the fantasy, but there is shame in the affair. And there is shame in the uh, making the affair with an employee who is technically underneath you at your company. And there's like a lot of shame in that. There's a lot of things morally wrong with that. But the fantasy itself is not what is morally wrong. And it's and you work through that with her character and Antonio Banderas' character in the last like 15 minutes of that movie. And by the
Hmm.
end, I think the realization is they are doing those things. And obviously the final scene is her climaxing, yes, to the thought of Harris Dickinson, but with the actions of Antonio Banderas, and the realization that the sexual fantasies that she's going through are not shameful. It was just her actions that were.
Hmm.
And I like the development of that story and the complexities which that character exists in, and our ability to sit with her and work through those emotions with her. I think is wonderful.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I think there's a lot of compelling ideas and things brought up there, and on that front, I didn't have any issues with it. I also thought a lot of the scenes between Nicole Kidman and Harris Dickinson, like they were hitting all those beats. I thought that they were trying to there again. The first hotel scene in
Dude,
particular,
that shit was
there's
awesome.
so much of it was just comedic, and again, they're
It's
both
so
like
sick.
just awkwardly trying to find their way through this
Harris
new
Dickinson is
experience.
great in this movie. Get on
He
your
is,
knees. Is that what you want? Get on your knees. Get on your knees.
yeah, he was
He's
just like
so
laughing to
awesome.
himself there about that.
He's just
Um,
like out of pocket from the start. Is what I love about him so much. She goes up and she goes, "How'd you get the dog to calm down?" And he says, "I had a cookie." Oh, you carry cookies with you all the time? Yeah. Why? You want one? It's
mhm,
crazy to say to the CEO of the company that you're an intern for. It's crazy, crazy
yeah,
out of pocket.
I mean that was yeah, that was pretty crazy. The one in the first negotiation scene, like their first little meeting, the
I think
mentor
you're a woman
meeting.
who wants to be told what to do.
Yes, that one that got
That one's
so many
wild.
reactions because it was straight up crazy.
So inappropriate, so out of pocket, and so kind of on the money there.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he was able to clock her within like two interactions. Insane.
Yeah, dude.
Um, and then yeah, he risked it all in that moment there, and happened to be right. And then it takes off from there. So yeah, that was a very effective scene. And again, the first hotel scene where again they're just like figuring their way through it all. I thought all of that was great.
Hmm.
Um, Overall, I'm kind of mixed on it. I think
Hmm.
again the performance from Nicole Kidman is just so strong
Oh yeah, it
that
is.
she's like magnetic the whole way through. You cannot be bored watching her.
Hmm.
But I will say there were other elements of the filmmaking, like a lot of the some of the editing choices there, some of the writing choices in certain places as well.
You think so?
Which yeah, I would say the just the way that certain scenes I feel like it undercut. Like we were building a lot of tension, a lot of suspense in certain moments, and then we just sort of move on to the next thing without really like sitting with
Hmm.
it and wringing it out for all the potential tension that was in there. So I think those elements I was rubbing up against, and then um, the character that Harris Dickinson plays. Like, again, I think he was also like very entertaining the whole way through. But I just had questions about like his character. I wanted
His
more
motivations, like why he's doing
understanding.
what he's
Yeah,
doing.
because
What
they
is he
bring
getting
up,
out of this?
which I think is pretty compelling. Like the when they're at that first hotel scene, and he's like, "Oh, it's played for a bit initially, like a joke of him not knowing what to say there, of like, oh, get on your knees,' and just being self aware about like how absurd that is." Um, and then he's like, when he puts her into the corner and then sits on the bed and is like, "Do you want to
That's
maybe
awesome.
come over here?" Like again, he's just trying to figure it out too. So it's clearly like he's trying to play a part as well. Like he
Hmm.
was very bold and uh, out of pocket in those very first scenes, but clearly that's
He's
not
also like an individual who
immediately
does not
natural.
want to cross a line.
Yeah,
He's like trying to figure out where the line is so he doesn't cross it.
yeah, and so I think that part of it was compelling. I just think we don't really get any deeper understanding about that.
Yeah. I wanted to
It's
know more about like what kind of satisfaction is he getting out of this. We get a little bit of it where he's like trying to ask her like more about who she thinks he is, and then he has to be held. You get like a little bit of vulnerability there in the sense that clearly he's just like enjoying himself in this moment, which is
mhm.
like fine. But I wish I understood more about what was the thing that was motivating him to continue doing this when it became so complicated, like halfway through,
Yeah,
with going to see her family and her getting angry and him getting frustrated in this situation. I wanted to know more about like what is making him want to stay there and not just like do the transfer like he said or go to a new company of some kind.
exactly. And then that middle portion too, where they had like started this little relationship, the affair, and then they both try and like pull away. Like that was that moment where he wanted to try and get the transfer, and then they fall back into it like shortly
Hmm.
after that, and then they have that second negotiation scene. Um,
Hmm.
and I don't know, something about that, just like from the overall structural standpoint, I just didn't see why so quickly it would fall apart, and then why so rapidly again they would just like reconnect there. And again, I
Yeah.
guess they just because
I
it
wish
felt
it was
good and
something
they
that
rushed it
happened
and
later
left
in the
it.
script as opposed to halfway through.
Yeah, that was what I was sort of wondering there. Why it came so early, and then we sort of like patched it up, and then it felt like now there was nothing left except for the reveal of the affair, which we do get to. But I just think it made the film lose a bit of steam along the way in that
Hmm.
second half.
Sure, yeah, I can understand
Um,
that.
and then getting into like full spoilers here for that whole ending portion when it does get revealed to Antonio Banderas, um, and then there's that moment, which was a great shot, like that great reveal of the two of them just sitting down, and then we see blurred
Antonio
out in the
Barris walk
background
in,
Antonio Banderas
dude.
just
It's
his
awesome.
shadow emerge.
I gasped, bro. I went, oh god, no.
It was great, very Better Call Saul esque there with Lala
Ish.
showing up.
Yeah.
Um,
Spoilers for Better Call Saul, I guess. Somewhat.
uh,
Yeah,
Not
it's
really,
vague
just
enough.
like
It's vague enough.
just the shot composition basically, and having him like emerge out of
From the
focus.
shadows.
But
Yeah.
so yeah, I thought that was great. But this is another moment where it's like, oh, we have this great like tense moment, and then they cut away from it. Like they literally cut
They.
in the middle of their
Yeah.
clashing to her bringing over veggies, like frozen vegetable bags, so that they could be healed. And it was funny. Like it was a funny little cut. But
Oh, I get it. The movie's edging us the whole time. Oh, I get it. I get
then
it
it's
now.
just
Okay.
them sitting down, and then they start talking, and I couldn't quite catch what Antonio Banderas was saying like specifically, but then he started bringing up something about like the dynamic and trying to like psychoanalyze what I guess Nicole Kidman's character was up to and why she like wanted the affair, and he was like trying to apologize to the kid about it, to Harris Dickinson about it, and then
He was saying she abused you. You know that, right?
I heard
She.
that part, but then he was
Yeah.
saying something else more specifically about like the feminine and masculine and like certain desires and everything. I just
Mhm.
couldn't hear like what exactly was
He
being said.
said that feminine masochism, like being
Mm,
submissive in that, is like a male fantasy, and then Harris Dickinson said that's an outdated view, which is
right.
the truth. Like it's what she wants too,
Yeah. Uh,
and
but I just thought that
but
was also like very out of
it's a little
place. Like
tone
again,
deaf.
after their
It's
like they
a little tone deaf for you to say, Harris. You're in his house and you're fighting him.
yeah, so
You
that
fucked
was
his wife and then you beat his ass in his house. That's kind of
and then they just
crazy.
started talking about like the theories of again just sexual fantasies and gender dynamics and stuff like that. I was like, this is
It's a
I
little
just
heavy
don't think
handed,
that would
yeah,
be what would happen. Like this would not be what is
yeah,
going on. Um, and then again they ratchet up the tension of he because he got that one big punch from Harris Dickinson.
yeah.
He starts like
He's having a panic attack, bro.
panic attack, yeah, and then we don't know. It's like, oh, is it because of the punch? And he's like got internal bleeding or his lungs collapsed or something. And then they ratchet up more when Harris Dickinson's trying to help him, and then they're like their foreheads locked together, and he's like looking him in the eye, and then he starts crying, and it's
That
like,
was
what is going
wild.
on here, and everything. And then Dickinson just gets up and leaves, and I just didn't know what to take from like those moments there. Like again, I thought we were going a different direction, and then it just did not. I don't know, end up exactly
Mhm.
where I thought. So uh, things like that just didn't quite click for me ultimately. I'm wondering
Sure.
if that played a different way for you at all, or if it was also just like anticlimactic
A little bit. I
resolution.
think it plays into the idea they were talking about earlier in the movie that Harris Dickinson is like a guy who can kind of read people and understand what they need and what they want. And I think him trying to calm down Antonio Banderas kind of feeds into that sort of personality trait of his, that he is like he's a very like astute individual, very wise person who like knows exactly what Antonio Banderas needs in that moment and is like trying to calm him down, and then just decides this is like fucking weird and then just dips, I guess, which I think is what he should have done as soon as Antonio Banderas walked into the house.
Yeah.
But yeah, now then he finally leaves, thank God.
But it's like after
And
that point, after you've like fought number one, then you're sitting down having this debate about the again gender dynamics, and Nicole Kidman, who's is still in the room as they're like psychoanalyzing like her fantasies and why this happened, and then again they're like heads are pressed against each other, and he's trying to
I think
hold on to this
Antonio
spinning back.
Banderas feels like I think what they're trying to go for is that Antonio Banderas is feeling like the kind of individual that Harris Dickinson's character is, and
He wanted to be
why she would be attracted to that kind of person, that kind of
he
like
wanted to be
more
baby
controlling
girl, is what you're
person. Yeah,
saying in that
yeah,
moment.
somewhat. Yeah, he like understood that persona and like how he is not really that person for Nicole Kidman and why she would be attracted to this. And
Yeah,
I think it like I think that realization, like seeing that in him and seeing what it was he wasn't giving her, I think that made him sad, and that's why he cried.
right.
It's I think what they
Which
were trying to go for.
could maybe like connect. It just couldn't happen simultaneously with the panic attack. I just feel like that's too
I don't think it would
just
happen anywhere
physiologically.
else.
Like I just don't think that would like come about. Like you wouldn't be able to
I mean, he
like
was calming down. I
he's
think it was
just trying to
fine.
breathe. Well, yeah, but like even later on because he it was pretty quick. Like again, he was on his hands and knees, like on the ground, still trying to like calm himself breathing. Um, which again was that because of the punch or was it
I mean,
just
dude,
panic attack of the situation?
have you
Like I'm
seen
not sure.
you saw Midsummer, right?
Yeah,
Florence Pugh goes through all of her emotions and panic attacks in that movie. She comes to many realizations midst panic attacks in that movie, start to finish. It's
I guess
possible. It's
so.
definitely possible.
I don't know if that's the
I don't think it's something that I got hung up on. I think I got hung up on Harris Dickinson just leaving without a word, more
right.
so of just like I wish you had just like said something and like given a reason why you're leaving, or like why that moment was the reason you wanted to leave specifically and not earlier. Like had he left right away without a word, I understand. Fucking get out of there, bro.
Right.
You're in a place where you shouldn't be. I don't know why he
100%.
goes to like grab Antonio Banderas when Banderas is like talking to Nicole Kidman and he says, "Don't touch me," and it's like, yeah, you shouldn't touch him, bro. Leave him be.
Dude, the when Antonio Banderas said, "Just give me 5 minutes with him, just 5 minutes," like he was telling Nicole Kidman, like, "No, no, no, just give me 5 minutes." That was very funny. I did, I like that whole part there. But yeah, just that whole ending sequence. I don't know, it didn't quite connect. The other major problem for the film for me that I realized because she says in her discussion of like trying to explain it, like, "Oh, there needed to be stakes. Like, there just had to be something there. There needed to be stakes and everything."
Mm.
Um, and I just didn't feel those stakes. Like I did not care that much about her relationship with her family. I think Tony Banderas, like the
I
moments we do
did.
see him, we care about like him, and obviously it's like it just sucks to be on like the
Oh.
receiving end of this whole situation. But the two daughters, I just think there weren't enough scenes of Nicole Kidman like actually spending time with them. Like we see little glimpses here and there, but they're just
No,
quick
I don't think
like
that's true.
snapshots.
I
The
think
other
there's
reason,
perfectly enough time of that, like fitting those in. I think it works well in the sense that it feels very clear that she cares a lot about her family.
yeah. But again, I just
If
didn't
not for
feel
like them specifically, also for like the image of like a CEO with her family. For
well,
both of
yeah.
those things
But then it becomes a
simultaneously.
more complicated thing, which would be
I think it'd be
interesting to delve
both.
into more. But of the time that we did spend with them, I also just did not like that one daughter, the one that
Yeah,
had
I'll
the
agree with you.
yeah.
She
I just
sucked,
didn't
dude.
like
She
her.
was
She was
so
terrible.
mean.
She was mean to
She
her
said
mom.
Nicole Kidman looked like a fish. She didn't want to
Yes.
change outfits. Dude, she was so mean.
She
I didn't like
also
her at
again.
all.
So yeah, just from the jump, the haircut already we're on bad
No, I think
terms.
it's fine. I think
No.
haircut's fine.
Second, I mean for the character, yeah, sure. But I'm just saying like I'm already you're already gonna have to win me over
You're a
for starting
traditionalist.
from there. Not at all. I'm just saying there's some bad haircuts and there's some good haircuts. That was not a good haircut. Uh, and then the fish stuff again, just like insulting Nicole Kidman
That
for
was
no reason.
really mean,
And
dude.
also, she's just
Unnecessary.
out and out a proud cheater. And then by the end, she's also like saying, "No, no, no, it's okay that you cheated on dad, because she forgave me. The person I cheated on forgave me. I'm
Again, she
like,
doesn't know the
you know,
extent of what it was. As far as she knows, because she doesn't know any details, is that she did the same thing that. It's just like she would be a hypocrite if she didn't, which would be maybe a compelling
well,
character
it's not
moment,
even
is her
really,
being a
the
hypocrite.
details don't matter. She's assuming correctly that Nicole Kidman cheated,
Yeah.
and she's saying it's okay. And so I'm just like, why is that, like, of this mother daughter relationship that we're getting here? Like, why is it a positive here that she's encouraging her to come back home because in her own experience of cheating, like, it all worked out. I'm like, this is just not, like, these people are not learning the lessons here. And then again, Nicole Kidman at the end, like, Antonio Banderas stays, and then they work it out, and she's able to, you know, I
I
guess,
think
be in
that's
that
part of
marriage
the
and pay her
realization
fees.
is her wrestling, like, she feels shame for having these fetishes and these kinks, and she should be feeling shame for, like, living them out with another person outside of her marriage. That's where the shame should be. And I think the ending scenes are supposed to be her realizing that there was nothing shameful about like the sexuality that she's feeling, or the fetish that she has. It was just because she was doing it with somebody that wasn't her husband and was an employee. That's where the
Hmm.
shame, and that's what her coming back to Antonio Banderas at the theater is. Is I'm so sorry I did this to you. It was completely my problem. It's completely my fault. Something I need to work through. I should not. I took it out on you. I should not have done this.
Do you think any part of the fetish was what she had said? Like, oh, it had to be stakes. Like, there had to be the risk involved of being with somebody that A, was not her husband. So there's already like that illicit aspect, and
I can
we're
see
in an
the
affair.
argument. It didn't feel like that was the fetish she was having, like a stakes,
Mm.
like a dangerous kind of thing. It felt more like a power dynamic thing. Like it felt like a fetish that she could have had satisfactorily with her husband had she brought it up to him.
Which, that's the other thing too. Like, why did she never? He seemed like he would have
I
been
think she was
game to do
ashamed about
whatever
it.
to try and. I
I
guess
think
so,
that's
but
the. I wish they had hammered that part home a little more, but I think she felt shameful for having those feelings and not wanting to like. She like wanted to be like the normal, just having normal sex kind of wife, which she says she wishes she was normal and she wishes she was the woman that he wanted,
yeah,
and not like having this fetish that she had, this power fetish. I don't. I didn't like the stakes thing because like inherently I understand the argument of like yes, if you're having sex with a younger employee of yours who is not your husband, there are stakes implicit in that, of course. It
hmm,
didn't feel like that was the reason she was doing it. It felt more like she liked the power dynamic that they were figuring out and doing together. And I felt like she could have explored that fetish with her husband and been
yeah,
satisfied in that regard
right,
without stakes, which she does at the end of the movie. So I don't know why they threw stakes in there.
yeah.
I wish they
I'm
also
pretty sure.
explored more because I really liked the scene where the Harris Dickinson showed up with the other girl and she gets really jealous. And I wish they had explored those feelings more because she does it a little bit where she brings her in and like is very hypocritical and encourages her to break it off for her career and is
Yeah,
like, you shouldn't do
yeah,
this. Like, you should be careful of this stuff. And I wish they had delved more because I was like, ooh, this is getting like interesting and juicy of her being a hypocrite just because she's like insanely jealous and that she's no longer upset that he's there. She's upset that he's there with another woman. I think is very, very intriguing, and they just don't lean into that as much as I wish they did.
agreed. Very much agreed. All right. Any other things you wanted to bring up about this film before we wrap it up?
I think that's it.
All right. How many ping pong balls in a room out of five?
I'll give it 4. I had a good time.
Wow, that's
I
high.
really liked Nicole Kidman, and I did have fun with the movie.
Gotcha. Again, I do think, yeah, there are certain moments where it absolutely delivers, and
Mhm.
especially in that like theatrical experience of
I think I
being
would
able to
have an
like,
even more
what?
fun time if I had been watching it like with other people, like people I know.
Yeah.
It would.
Uh,
It feels like a fun movie to see with a group of people, and I didn't do that. But I see the value inherent in the movie, and I see very much the value inherent in Nicole Kidman's performance and the character itself.
Agreed. Yeah, that performance is incredible. However, ultimately, I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5.
Damn, low. I feel like
It's
your
okay.
scores have
It's,
gotten more harsh as the years have gone on.
uh,
I see a lot less 4s out
probably
of you.
since the very beginning, probably, but no, there's been a string of fours. I think all these past few episodes, I think I've exclusively given fours. So this is the first one in a while, but
Yeah, Glicked wasn't 4s, I don't think.
that's true. It was like 3.5 and a 3, but
Yeah,
they were close. Uh, but yeah,
yeah,
all right. Let's talk now about Nosferatu, which I did not see, but
yeah.
Dylan,
I'm
You
going to talk
did.
about it briefly without any spoilers because Ryan, it is. I know you don't like horror movies, and it is very, very scary. It was. I thought it was going to be more like an Eggers type scary, which is more just like ominous
Uh
and
huh.
not like actually scary, scary. And it was actually scary, scary. But I do think you should see it. I think
Oh
there's
my
merit
god.
in watching this movie. I know I can usually convince you to watch a horror movie if I think there's artistic merit, and it is shot incredibly well. It's the Dracula story, so it's eerily close to Coppola's version, of course, story wise.
Hmm.
You're pretty much watching the same story play out, just with characters with different names. Because the original Nosferatu, they had to make it like that because they didn't have the rights to the characters, and so they just rewrote all the character names and redesigned Dracula to be Count Orlok Nosferatu. And this movie is the remake of that movie, so they're continuing on that tradition of those character names that they redid. But it's
Hmm.
essentially Dracula, so it's the same story that you've seen. And let me tell you, man, he tells the story significantly better than Coppola does. Significantly better. There were
Well.
times where I was watching it and I was like, I don't know, I really like the way Coppola shot his. I really like, you know, the stylism of the overlays that Coppola's using and like the colors that he's using. So I don't know if I'm like taken by Robert Eggers' interpretation, like the way that he's shooting it. It's very like natural light, like he always does. I don't know if I'm like captivated by it yet. And then this is all in the beginning when we're just like learning who the characters are. They're in Germany. Nothing has really happened yet. It takes a while for Nicholas Holt to leave to go to Transylvania. But when he does, dude, holy fuck, it changes. Like the way that it's shot is incredible. Oh my god, dude. It looks so fucking fantastic. There's some shots in there of like just the snow falling, of
Mm.
like shots on characters that are framed really well using architecture to frame the character. There's good jumps in there, good like long pans that are happening, really good long shots. Just like really artistic gothic framing that is done so well that every frame does look like a painting, and it is absolutely gorgeous. You
Hmm.
really should see this. I think it's very, very important that you do. It is, I will say, very, very scary. I, I was definitely scared watching it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I would just say again, this is a credit to Robert Eggers.
Mhm.
I saw the trailers and I was like, this looks fantastic. And it looks very effective at being scary. And
It
therefore, I
is.
don't want to watch it because I don't like horror films. But yeah, especially that most recent trailer that was like playing in, like when you would see it in the previews in the theater. It was just very striking. Again, a lot of the shots, like the one that's like burned in my brain, the shadow of the hands going
Over the
over the
town.
city.
Dude, it is
That's fantastic.
gorgeous. It
That's
is
amazing.
so the full shot in the movie is even better. It is so fucking panic. There are many shots like that because they do that in they do things like that in Coppola's version where you have the shadows coming into play because of the FW Murnau version of that story. They're appealing to those aesthetics, and Eggers leans into it a little bit more hesitantly than Coppola did. I think Coppola overused it a little bit, and so he uses it much more sparingly in this one. He shows Nosferatu a lot more than I thought he was going to,
Mm,
and they made a bold choice with his character design that I would love to talk to you about, but I don't want to spoil it because I don't want to give in to any details as to what Bill Skarsgård looks like in this. His voice is crazy, dude. It
I've
just
heard
doesn't
some things.
sound
I've heard.
it doesn't sound anything like him. I thought that perhaps somebody else was doing the voice because it is like an incredible. I mean, they obviously they're doing a lot of effects to it to make it echo and boom as Orlok's voice should because he's the vampire. But I mean, it just doesn't sound anything like it. It's incredible. But he does give a fantastic performance as Count Orlok. Um, Aaron Taylor Johnson is surprisingly good in it. He's in it for a lot more than I thought he was going to be, and he's very subtle for a lot of it. But I thought he just did like a very very good job. Nicholas Holt is also very very good, but I think and Willem Dafoe is also very good. But other than Bill Skarsgård, I think Lily Rose Depp kind of killed it, bro. I think she does like a very very good job, surprisingly so, because I haven't seen her in much, but I saw a bit of The Idol and it wasn't very good. But
Mm,
she's really really good in this, and it's like a hard the times where it doesn't work to me is that there are moments where she has to go very extreme in her character to sell it, and she does
Hmm.
it, and she does it very, very well. But it's shown in like long take wide shot, which if you do long take wide shot on like an actor doing something very, very extremely silly like that,
Mm.
it can be seen as like sort of funnier than it should be and not taken as seriously because you're just watching them do something so ridiculous for so long without cutting. And I think had it's not Eggers' style, of course. This is very much a Robert Eggers movie, but I think it would have been beneficial in some of those moments to make her because there are a lot of people making jokes online about aspects of her performance because it just is so crazy. I think it's fantastic, but there are parts where it like goes balls to the wall. But you're seeing all of it in such a wide shot that it's they say comedies in wide. It
Hmm.
looks very silly what she's doing, and I think they could have benefited from some close up, quicker shots to really sell the eccentricism of her character without making it seem a little laughable. But she leans into it 100%. Like she's giving everything she's got to play the character, and she's doing fantastic. She's doing really, really well. I just wish that the direction had been more in her favor to avoid the pitfalls of the people who think that's kind of silly looking. I think it looked great. I think it worked really, really well. I could see why people would think it's kind of funny.
Did people laugh in the theater when you're watching it during those moments?
No, but I've
Okay.
seen like so many reels, like Instagram reels, of people doing imitations of Lily Rose Depp and her performance, and it's because they thought it was funny in the moment and not like I could see the merit of like why it's kind of funny and why it's kind of silly. But I
Yeah.
thought it worked really, really well for the story, and I think she sells it really, really well because it's got to be an exhausting performance. She is like possessed by Nosferatu for a good chunk of this, and like leaning into it very, very heavy, and she's really, really good at it.
Hmm.
So it must have been just tiring to be that constantly. She's like convulsing her body for like exorcism style convulsing her body for a lot of it, and that is like not an easy thing to do. And I think she's selling it really well. I just
Gotcha.
wish there had been more close-ups because like you watch The Exorcist, the actress is doing the exact same thing, and that also has been played for laughs as well, but it's taken a lot more seriously when you're watching the movie, I think, because there are some quicker cuts there and they do some crazy things with it. And I think this would have. There's like one particular scene where she's like fighting with Nicholas Holt, and she's possessed by the vampire, and she's doing the same thing where she's like convulsing her body and screaming at him, and she's like killing it. But it's like her full body wide shot for like 20 seconds while she's doing it, and she's convulsing like crazy. And it's just like at a certain point, you got to cut away, please. Like I can't watch her do this for so long, and like it's one of those things where I mean, if you watched a person do that in real life, it would be terrifying. It would be terrifying to see someone convulse like that and say those things and speak in that manner.
Hmm.
Absolutely. But in a movie, I don't know. I just think the wide shot may not have been the way to go. That's a little bit
Okay.
nitpicky though. Overall, I had a really good time. My only drawback is that it is kind of long. It's only like a little over 2 hours, but he's definitely drawing it out a bit,
Hmm.
and it's not as exciting as The Northman is as far as movies go, and it's not as I haven't seen The Witch, but it's not as eccentrically interesting as The Lighthouse is. I think The Lighthouse, as slow as it is something that just sucks me in so greatly that I have to continue watching it no matter what. And I think this movie has definitely has moments like that, but it also definitely has moments where it like slows down to be a more traditionalist storytelling venture in the same way that The Northman does that a lot too. But The Lighthouse is like balls to the wall, start to finish. It's awesome. I didn't know this, but apparently a big mentor for Robert Eggers, especially on this movie in particular, has been Christopher Columbus,
Oh.
which I think is like a vastly different filmmaker. I think it's just very, very funny. But I guess he's been very influential and very helpful, and he was a creative producer on Nosferatu. It was encouraging Robert Eggers to lean into his style of filmmaking, which I think is like a very encouraging, exciting thing to hear from like a very orthodox Hollywood filmmaker.
Hmm.
I think that's very, very cool. I think that's neat to hear. But I had a good time. I liked it a lot. I think you should watch it, even though it is really, really scary. Uh, because there is like a lot of merit in the stylism of the film and like the way he goes about it. It is gorgeous and incredible. And of the vampire movies I've seen, specifically like tellings of Dracula, the story of Dracula, I think this is my favorite.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it just tells the story really, really well. I think it leans into the uh, terrifying sexuality of Dracula without being overly sexual in the same way that Coppola's is. And I think there's merit in the entertainment of that. It is Nosferatu is also just a very sexual movie.
Yeah. Again, perfect for Christmas.
Yeah,
Uh, so I don't know that I'm convinced yet, but again, I am open minded because
you should.
I
What's holding you
thought
back?
there was a possibility. What's holding me back?
Yeah,
Uh,
the scary.
well, yeah, you confirmed that it is extremely scary. So then it's
It
like,
is.
okay,
Yeah,
now I have to weigh whether or not I want the
I really
scary.
thought it was going to be more like an eerie feeling. I thought he was going to lean into like the eeriness, kind of like Coppola does a little bit in his, because Coppola's is not a horror movie really at all.
No,
I thought it was going to lean into like a very eerie feeling, like The Lighthouse, and like just play on like a lot of psychological horrors of just like presence kind of being there. But no, he goes like full balls to the wall horror in it. It is like 100% a horror movie. Very, very scary. Very impressive.
gotcha. And then the I guess the other two things. I mean, yeah, I recognize again from the trailers that there does seem to be a lot of visual treat in Nosferatu, like the
It's so much better than the
stylism.
trailers let on. It's so gorgeous.
Wow. Okay. But I'm like, does that alone make me go into a film that's
It should.
otherwise in the genre
Great
may
performances
not
too. Very, very good
make me
performances.
enjoy it? Performances,
Lily
yeah,
Rose Depp is fantastic. Bill Skarsgård is transformative, and then the supporting cast is all very, very present and in the moment, and I think that's wonderful.
yeah. And
I was hoping
then,
there would be more Willem Dafoe. I wish there was more.
dang, and then I don't know. I can just possession things in general. I'm not a huge fan of. Not that this one, because again, it's like Nosferatu's a Dracula thing, so it's not like that alone is actually scary to me. But at a certain point, I just don't know how interested I am in seeing like people convulsing constantly. Um, and then from watching Coppola's Dracula, which again may just go to the problems with that film in particular, but I also don't know how much I'm in love with the actual story of like Dracula, like the whole thing of again like her being
Hmm.
not in Transylvania. Like, isn't that the whole thing? Like, she's off,
Yeah, he is
and
journeying
then
to find her.
from far away, yeah, he's like possessing her. Um, and I guess towards the end, but I don't know how much in Nosferatu and like the actual stuff. Like, do they get that Van Helsing and the gang together to actually like hunt down Nosferatu and all of
You got to
that?
watch it.
Hmm, interesting. Uh, so I don't know. I will remain open minded. I'm not convinced yet, but if other people continue to highly praise it, then I might have to go see it because someone I know is in fact wants to go see it, but also doesn't like horror, and so I'm like, why would you want to go see that? And
You should
subject
go
me.
with them. You
And
should
so that
go
was the
with
thing. I
them.
was like, well, if I get convinced, then maybe I'll do it. But we will see. We shall see.
I think like of all, there's so much artistic merit in this movie that it demands to be watched at least once. If not in theaters, because I mean, in theaters it is extra scary because it is very pitch black in there. And they're blasting the sound. The sound design of this movie is also crazy. It is so loud, so much louder than I thought it would be. But also, I guess The Northman was like that, and The Lighthouse was like that. So I don't know what else I expected. But
Gotcha.
yeah, it's
All
very
right.
loud, but it's awesome. It is a great viewing experience.
How many? What would you say for this one? How many blanks out of five?
I got to think of something that isn't like a spoiler because there's some funny things I could say as a spoiler. Uh, how many rats? I guess is
I
something that isn't
figured
quite
the
of a spoiler.
rats were
Yeah, rats
gonna
is a
come
good
into
one.
play.
Rats is a safe thing that's not a spoiler. How many plague infected rats out of five? I would give it four.
All right. So another
I
four.
also had a good time with this one.
There you
Not a
go.
perfect five for either, unfortunately. There were definitely like things lacking in my opinion, but I think they both had strong artistic merit that merited a four.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. So a 4 out of 5 for the full Christmas bundle for you for
Four and a
Babygirl and
four, buddy.
Nosferatu. And I'm giving again Babygirl 2.5. And Nosferatu, we will see if I end up watching that.
You should
Maybe
check it out.
we'll discuss that on a follow-up show later on. But
Yep.
yeah, that's about it.
That is about it. That's all the time we have. If you'd like to give your thoughts on the show, you can email us at theboxofficeshowpod@gmail.com.
Our main title theme for the show is Sundown by Joseph McDade.
If you like the show, please give us 5 stars, whatever podcast app you're listening to, and be sure to tune in next week. Have a great rest of your day.